And just time to squeeze in one or two of your tweets on your views on the Prime Minister as he prepares to speak to MPs today for the first time after being fined for breaking the COVID laws. This from Mike on Twitter, who says, what chaos do we expect if the rest of the UK citizens break different laws and then just apologise each time laws are broken? Chaos is coming to the country, he writes. And the majority of the tweets I've had today have been criticising the PM, one or two saying, let him get on with the job. Joanna Gosling is here next, but from me, it's bye for now.
You're live with Lucy Hockings on BBC World News. Russia's war in Ukraine enters its second phase. Ukraine says Russia's large-scale offensive in the eastern Donbass region is underway after Moscow failed to take cities in the north.
No matter how many of the Russian troops are driven there, we will be fighting. We will defend ourselves.
The wearing of face masks on public transport in the US is no longer compulsory following a ruling by a Trump-appointed judge in Florida. Did Boris Johnson mislead Parliament? The British Prime Minister faces MPs today for the first time since he was fined for breaking COVID lockdown laws. In the next half hour, we'll take you live to Lviv and to Moscow and a news conference we're expecting given by the head of the Luhansk region in the east of Ukraine. Ukraine says the battle for the Donbass region, regarded as the second phase of the war, has begun after Russia launched a major offensive in the east of the country. In the last hour or so, Russia has called on Ukrainian forces to immediately lay down arms and issued a new ultimatum for the defenders of the besieged port city of Mariupol to give up their resistance. Now, according to President Zelensky, a large proportion of the Russian army is now focused on the east. Moscow's forces already occupy large parts of the area. Last month, Russia claiming it controlled over 90% of Luhansk and half of Donetsk, and its forces are expected to try and encircle the remaining Ukrainian troops in the region. A reminder of our top story. Ukraine says the battle for the Donbass region, regarded as the second phase of the war, has begun after Russia launched a major offensive in the east of the country. We've been hearing from the governor of the Luhansk region, and he says that Russia is now in control of the town of Kreminna, that is in the east. Ukrainian troops have withdrawn from the city. More on the website, of course. We have a live page up and running there for you with all the latest developments, and you can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Lucy Hockings, BBC. You're live with Lucy Hockings on BBC World News. Russia's war in Ukraine enters its second phase. Ukraine says Russia's large-scale offensive in the eastern Donbass region is underway after Moscow failed to take cities in the north.
No matter how many of the Russian troops are driven there, we will be fighting. We will defend ourselves.
The wearing of face masks on public transport in the US is no longer compulsory following a ruling by a Trump-appointed judge in Florida. Israel carries out its first airstrikes on the Gaza Strip in months in response to a Palestinian rocket attack. Did Boris Johnson mislead Parliament? He faces MPs today for the first time since he was fined for breaking COVID lockdown laws. And the programme will be live in Jerusalem, New York, Johannesburg and Colombo, and I'll be speaking to the mayor of Kharkiv in Ukraine. Ukraine says the battle for the Donbass region, regarded as the second phase of the war, has begun after Russia launched a major offensive in the east of the country. According to President Zelensky, a large proportion of the Russian army is now focusing on the east, and the governor of the Luhansk region has now confirmed that Russian troops have taken control of the city of Kreminna. Now, Moscow's forces already occupy large parts of the Donbass. Last month, Moscow claimed it controlled over 90% of Luhansk and half of Donetsk, and its forces are expected to try and encircle the Romanian Ukrainian troops in the region. Phillips O'Brien there. We're going to return you now to Afghanistan because we just have some pictures in the past few minutes or so from the scene of that awful attack this morning, a suspected twin suicide bombing outside a boys' school in Kabul. We know at least 6 people have been killed, 11 people have been wounded, at least we're hearing. The students were leaving their morning classes when the blast happened. We've had no immediate claim of responsibility. Islamic State militants, we know, though, have attacked the area in the past. And what is significant is where this happened. This is an area where there is a large proportion of the population are Hazara Shia Muslims. And to remind you, Hazaras are an ethnic and religious minority that are often targeted by Sunni militant groups. So these pictures just coming to us, the aftermath of that awful 2 explosions in Kabul. See you in a few minutes. You're live with Lucy Hockings on BBC World News. Russia's war in Ukraine enters its second phase. Ukraine says Russia's large-scale offensive in the eastern Donbass region is underway after Moscow failed to take cities in the north.
No matter how many of the Russians are driven there, we will be fighting. We will defend ourselves.
Over 200 children have been killed, many more injured during Russia's invasion. We'll bring you a special report on the impact of the war on the next generation.
It was so hard to get through the nights. We were afraid a shell would hit us at any moment. Even here, I can't escape the feeling that the war is still all around us.
Sri Lanka asked for emergency help from the International Monetary Fund amid warnings it will default on some of its foreign debts. And countdown to the Commonwealth Games, the first multi-sport event to be held in public since the coronavirus pandemic began. In the next half hour, I'll be speaking live to the mayor of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine. We'll be live in the Sri Lankan capital Colombo and Johannesburg. Let's start in South Africa and the dreadful flooding they've had there, the effect on everyone's life in KwaZulu-Natal. The President Cyril Ramaphosa declaring now a state of a disaster in response to those floods. We now know more than 440 people have been killed, more than 40,000 people have been displaced, and dozens are still missing. Just an update for you on our top story on Russia's offensive in Ukraine. We have been hearing from Ukraine's neighbour Poland, from the Prime Minister. Now, he has said, Prime Minister Morawiecki, that Poland is ready to treat up to 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers in its hospitals if required. He says they have dozens of Ukrainian soldiers there already currently being treated. So they're hoping to get people across the border to Poland when the shelling intensifies. The temporary accommodation they've got there can house up to 500 people right on the border. The pictures you're seeing here of the town of Kharkiv, Ukraine is saying they have managed to repel some attacks just south of Kharkiv in the past 24 hours. You've been live with Lucy Hockings.